Hey everyone, Steven here, and welcome to my little library of horrors. Well, while the season may still technically be fall date-wise, winter's certainly in full effect where I am. We just had our first winter storm the other day, and it's -6 degrees today. So, for me, it's definitely winter has absolutely started. So that kind of gave me the idea to make this video of 5 horror books that will give you the chills this winter. So I picked 5 books that are set during the winter that I really love and I think will be really good mood readings for those of you out there who are mood readers. I'm personally not myself, like, not that I mind it. I think it, is really good. It adds a really nice, layer of realism to the story that you're reading, but my brain just kind of wants to read what it wants to read. But anyway, before I get into the video, I just ask that you drop a quick like on it. It's a free way to support the channel and helps push a video out into the algorithm. But anyway, the first book I want to highlight is Bone White by Ronald Malfi. Pretty neat cover there. So Bone White was actually the first Ronald Malfi book that I've read, and I instantly became a fan of his work. He writes so beautifully. His characters are so three-dimensional but relatable and grounded. He has wonderful pacing. I really enjoy the way he builds dread and genuine horror within his stories. Personally, I think Malfi has the potential to be the next Stephen King within horror. I know a lot of people think there will never be another King, in horror, and I will agree to a certain level, absolutely, but I think as far as someone who may be next to take the throne, as far as this current generation, my money would certainly be on Ronald Malfi. But Bone White is a story about Paul Gallo, who essentially sees a news report about a mass murderer in Dreadhand, Alaska, which happens to be the last known location of his missing twin brother. I believe his name is Danny. So when Paul goes to visit Dreadhand, there's instantly sort of this feeling of something's not right. So it definitely, that's the thing with Malfi, is he is a multi-subgenre kind of writer. This has small town horror. It turns into a doppelganger story. It's sort of a serial killer novel. So there's so many subgenres within it, but it never feels crowded or disjointed. Everything feels very connected as far as how they interact with each other. The climax is fantastic. The twist is really, really great. And the ending is an ending that leaves you with a sense of dread that I love. So, yeah, Bone White is definitely a really, really good book. Definitely check it out. If you haven't read any of Malfi's work, this would be the first one I absolutely recommend checking out. Next up is Winter Chill by Joanne Fluke. Really nice cover here. So I read this last year, and mainly because of the cover. I really do love the cover. Like, the sled is really cool. I love the perspective from the window. It's not something you see a lot of. You don't really see a lot of first-person view covers in general, not let alone horror itself. So I really like that. But Winter Chill is the story of this couple, Dan and I believe her name is Marion. Let me just double check here. Marion, yes. Dan and Marion Powell, I believe it is. Let me see here. Nope, that's Ronnie Powell. Laura. Anyway, Dan and Marion, basically, it starts off with a really strong gut punch. Dan and their daughter Laura are riding a snowmobile and get into this horrific snowmobile accident. It's literally like the first 2 pages of the book, and it just does not hold back at all right away. So, as Laura's grieving, Dan, after his accident, he becomes mentally paralyzed. And I stress the mental part because that's very important to the story. So he becomes mentally paralyzed where he can't move his legs. And as Marion's grieving, Dan decides to basically leave a note from Laura to leave for Marion to discover, which leads into this huge mystery where the kids within the town are starting to be murdered in very gruesome ways. And the town, essentially believes there's a serial killer stalking the town. And it comes down to, who is it? Dan is having these dreams of walking, but when he wakes up, his legs are very sore as if he has been walking. While Marion is having these dreams of Laura visiting her and talking to her. And, saying, after every kid dies, they're suddenly in Marion's dream with Laura, and Laura's saying, oh, I'm so happy I have a friend, da-da-da. I have a full review on the channel that I'll put down in the description below if you want to know more, but this is a brilliant story. Like I said, it starts off very heavy. There's a lot of themes of grief and loss. Excuse me. And it's a really, really great tale, with an awesome twist, unreliable narrators, and an ending that genuinely, I think, will leave your jaw on the floor. So, definitely check this out if you can. Next on my list is easily one of my top 10 horrors I've ever read to this day. And that's going to be The Auctioneer by Joan Samson. Samson, not Samson. If I'm not mistaken, this is unfortunately the only novel Joan has ever written. She died shortly after she published this, I know that much, but if that's not correct, I apologize. It's pretty fuzzy. But yeah, The Auctioneer is easily one of my top 10 horrors because it's something that can happen. The horror lies on the desperation of people. This auctioneer suddenly comes into this small New Hampshire town and very quickly, is quick to do favors for the townspeople. And the only person in the town, our protagonist, instantly sees something right away. He's the only person that sees something wrong right away. And, that's another part of the terror, is this feeling of helplessness from our protagonist, where he's desperately trying to tell the people in town, like, hey, something's not right with this. You shouldn't be taking favors from this guy. Where, as the story starts to unfold, we see where the auctioneer is now starting to come back to get his dues, essentially. And it starts off so small, but then as the story unfolds, we start to see bigger and bigger demands of people. And it really reminds me of this awesome quote from Nick Cutter's The Troop. What is the biggest spreader of disease, essentially? It's love. And when you think about it, when someone you love becomes sick, you do your best to take care of them. And eventually you'll neglect yourself. And, it's it's just easy to catch what they have. So it's like, in the same vein with this is, you do things for people that you love that you normally wouldn't do. You know what I mean? Like, your kids have to stay warm, they have to eat, you have to eat, and and that's really where, like, what I really love about the story. Again, the terror relies on the desperation of pure human instinct. So yeah, this is easily one of my top 10 horrors of all time. It's set in the winter. The climax is friggin' awesome. It's easily one of my favorite climaxes in any story. And the ending just gives you such a chill up your spine. Definitely check this out. I really wouldn't be surprised if this was not an inspiration for Stephen King's Needful Things. So if you like Needful Things by Stephen King, absolutely check out The Auctioneer by Joan Samson. Next up is going to be The 12 Frights of Christmas, edited by Isaac Asimov, Charles G. Woe, and Martin Harry Greenberg. Really, really awesome cover. Sorry for the shaky hands. Like, nerves or caffeine or whatever it is. But, my gosh, here, let me switch hands here. There we go. That's a little better. So this is a short story collection that contains 12 horror stories from some of the best writers in literature, honestly. We have, obviously, Isaac Asimov, Robert Bloch, H.P. Lovecraft, H.G. Wells, Arthur C. Clarke, Robert Louis Stevenson, and a bunch of other names, including easily my favorite short story, which is the beginning one, The Chimney by Ramsey Campbell. The Chimney is probably, in my opinion, one of the pinnacles of short story horrors. And I really don't want to go into more about it, because it really is one of those stories that even just a little bit of information, I think, will spoil it. Spoil the overall experience. It's really one of those stories you have to go into blind to just really get the full effect of it. It's really the only thing I've read by Campbell, which is a shame. I do plan on reading more of his work in 2026. But if this is any sort of, I guess, foretelling of what his stories are like, I genuinely think he's going to quickly climb the ladder as my favorite authors. It's so good. It's terrifying. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about that one. But some of the other really good stories in here are, let me see, I have to check. Let's see here. The Festival by H.P. Lovecraft was really good. The Night Before Christmas by Robert Bloch was excellent. That was also another one of my favorites. And let's see. The Old Nurse's Story by Mrs. Gaskell. That was really good as well. Overall, all the stories are really good, but I just think it's interesting to see such a collection of titans, like, throwing their hat in the ring for holiday horror. So, yeah, if you can find a copy of this, definitely check it out. And like I said, go read The Chimney by Ramsey Campbell. Really, 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 really good. So for my final entry in this list, I think it might be, I don't want to say controversial. I feel like that makes it like this huge thing that it's not. I would say more divisive, in the sense that, is it horror or is it a different genre? And for my 2 cents, I would certainly place it in the horror genre, because what's more terrifying than real life, you know? So for me, that book is Alive by Piers Paul Reed. So, Alive is the story of the very famous plane crash of the soccer team or is it the rugby team? I apologize. I believe it was soccer, but let me just double check. I believe it was soccer. Again, I apologize. It's been a little while since I've read this. Either soccer or rugby, either sport. But the team crashes into the Andes Mountain. There's a total of 32 survivors on the plane, and they spend a pretty long time on the mountain trying to survive until rescue comes. And it is a really harrowing tale of human survival. Like, plane crashes are obviously very horrifying and devastating, but I think we don't truly grasp that. I don't think we take into full account what that is. Like, I think we think a crash and everyone's dead inside and things like that, but this is firsthand account of like survivors seeing the aftermath of a plane crash. People you love in pieces and dying in front of you, freezing to death, having to eat your loved ones. Where there's parts like, I'll never look at beef jerky the same again. But it's also like this beautiful tale of human survival. People working together to survive, comforting each other in this easily like the worst time they'll ever experience in their life. And just like ingenuity, like, all they had was wine and candy to survive on. So, and there's this brutal trek to go to where like the cargo of the plane landed, like possibly miles away, and having to prepare for that kind of hike on the Andes Mountain when you're it's just a really, really harrowing tale. And it's really, to me personally, I think it's really terrifying. This copy here actually has this really nice picture of the map that shows where the plane crashed, and you can see like it shows where the path they led to find the fuselage, and eventually where they tried to make it to the other peak to try to find help. There's the team right there. And they actually have like pictures of them, just, there's one of the survivors just trying to stay warm, drinking melted snow. And you can just see the genuine like despair but the will to live. There's despair, there's hungry, there's exhaustion, but there's that burning will to survive. That's just underlined throughout all of the horrible disaster within it. So for me personally, this is easily one of my favorite, not only winter reads, but overall books that I've read in my life. It's a really, really awesome, brutal tale. So definitely check this book out. It's widely available. And I definitely think it's worth reading for your winter scares. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today, everyone. That's 5 horror books that I think will give you the chills this winter. Let me know down below in a comment, what are some of your favorite winter reads? I'd love to check them out. For me, I've still got at least until the beginning of April before it starts to warm up again. So, been for a long winter, so I could use the Rex. But if you've made it this far, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't made it this far, I still appreciate you giving me a little bit of your time today. And if you're struggling with seasonal depression like I do, get some sunlight as much as you can. Buy some brighter lights if you can. even try to sit out on a porch or just go outside during the sunlight, no matter how cold it is. The vitamin D is good for you, and it'll help. But until next time, everyone, be kind to yourselves. See ya.